I buried my brother 38 years ago. His name was Logan, Logan Hayes. He was 20 when the charter bus he was on went off a cliff in the Rocky Mountains during a February ice storm in 1987. They told me 27 passengers died that night. Logan was one of them. I identified his body at the county morgue in Summit Ridge, Colorado. I was 26 years old, and I had to tell our mother that her youngest son was gone. Last Wednesday, my phone rang at 3:07 the morning. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was 206 Seattle. I almost didn't answer. At 65, you learn that nothing good comes from calls at that hour. But something made me reach for it. Maybe it was the same instinct that used to wake me when Logan would sneak downstairs to steal Mom's cinnamon rolls before Christmas morning. I answered. A voice said, "Gerald? Is this Gerald?" I sat up in bed, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. The voice was rough, broken like someone who'd screamed until their throat gave out and never fully healed. But underneath that damage, there was something that made my chest tighten. "Who is this?" I asked. There was breathing on the other end, heavy, shaking. "It's me," the voice said. "It's Logan." I dropped the phone. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely pick it up again. When I did, the line was still open. I could hear him breathing. "This isn't funny," I said, my voice breaking. "Whoever you are, this is sick. My brother died 38 years ago." "I know," the voice said quietly. "I know how long it's been. I just figured out who I am. I found something, a newspaper clipping about the bus crash. There's a picture, and the name underneath says Logan Hayes. That's me, isn't it? I'm Logan Hayes." I couldn't breathe. The room tilted. "Where are you?" I managed to say. I don't really know. Someone said it's called Pioneer Square. I've been staying at a shelter on 3rd Avenue. I don't remember how I got here. I don't remember anything before maybe 10, 15 years ago. Just waking up somewhere, and people telling me I'd been found with no ID, and I couldn't tell them my name. My mind was racing. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of scam, someone who'd found Logan's name and decided to torture me with it. "What do you remember?" I asked, testing him. "Nothing clear, just feelings. Sometimes I dream about snow, about being trapped, about people screaming, and sometimes I dream about a kitchen that smelled like cinnamon, and someone burning something every Christmas morning, but someone's still eating them anyway." I felt the tears start then, hot and sudden, because I remembered those mornings. I remembered Mom burning the cinnamon rolls every single Christmas, and how Logan and I would joke that they tasted like charcoal, but I'd eat them anyway because it made her smile. "What do you look like?" I whispered. "Old," he said, and there was something hollow in his voice. "Really old. My face is, I don't know, worn down, I guess. I've been living rough for a long time, but I found this picture in that newspaper clipping, and even though it's almost 40 years old, I can see it. I can see myself in that face." "Logan had a scar," I said, "on his right wrist, from falling through the chicken coop roof when he was 10, shaped like a half moon." There was a long pause. Then, "I have a scar on my right wrist, old, really old. I never knew where it came from." I was crying now, really crying in a way I hadn't cried since the day we lowered his casket into the ground. "Give me your address," I said. "I'm coming to get you." "I don't think you should," he said quietly. I don't think I'm the person you remember. I'm just someone who's been on the streets longer than I can recall. I probably smell bad. I probably look scary. I just wanted to call because I thought someone should know that maybe I didn't die in that crash." "Tell me where you are," I said firmly. "Right now." He gave me the address of a shelter on 3rd Avenue. I wrote it down with shaking hands. It was a 4.5-hour drive from Spokane to Seattle, longer if the roads were bad. I looked at the clock. 3:22 inches the morning. "Stay there," I said. "Don't go anywhere. I'm leaving right now. I'll be there before noon. Do you understand? Don't leave." "Okay," he said softly. "Okay, Gerald. I'll wait." The line went dead. I sat there in the darkness for maybe 30 seconds, trying to process what had just happened. Then I was moving, pulling on jeans, grabbing my wallet, my keys. My wife Marilyn stirred. "Gerald? What's wrong?" "I have to go to Seattle," I said, and my voice sounded strange even to me. "Now? At 3 in the morning?" I looked at her, this woman I'd been married to for 35 years, and I didn't know how to say it. How do you tell someone that the brother you buried nearly 4 decades ago just called you on the phone? "I'll explain later," I said. "I have to go." I was out the door before she could ask anything else. The highway was empty at 3:40 inches the morning. Just me, the headlights cutting through darkness, and the white lines disappearing under my tires like memories I couldn't hold on to. I kept the radio off, couldn't stand the noise, couldn't stand anything but the sound of my own breathing and the hum of the engine. This is a scam, I told myself. It has to be. But my hands were still shaking on the wheel. I thought about Logan as a kid, how he used to hide fake spiders in my bed and then act innocent when I'd scream. How we'd built that treehouse in the backyard and sworn we'd never let anyone else up there. How he'd always eaten twice as many cinnamon rolls as me on Christmas morning, even the burned ones, especially the burned ones, because he said they tasted like adventure. I thought about the last time I saw him. We'd argued. God, we'd argued about something so stupid I can barely remember what it was now. He was heading to Denver for a job interview, some construction gig he was excited about. I told him he was wasting his time, that he should stay home and work with Dad. He told me I sounded just like the old man, and not in a good way. He got on that bus angry, and then he was gone. I remembered the morgue, the fluorescent lights, the smell of disinfectant trying to cover up something worse, the attendant pulling back the sheet, and me looking down at a face so battered and swollen I could barely recognize it. But the hair was the right color, the build was right, and I was 26 years old and drowning in shock, and when they asked, "Is this your brother?" I said yes. I said yes. What if I was wrong? My phone rang. Marilyn. I answered on speaker. "Gerald, what is happening?" Her voice was tight with worry. "You just ran out. You won't explain. Please, just talk to me." "I can't," I said. My throat felt raw. "Not yet. I need to get to Seattle." "Why? What's in Seattle?" "My brother. My dead brother who might not be dead." "I'll call you when I know more," I said instead. "I promise. Gerald. I love you. I'm sorry. I have to go." I hung up before she could respond. The sun was rising by the time I crossed into Washington, pale and cold through the clouds. By the time I hit the Seattle city limits, it was nearly 8:30, and exhaustion was clawing at me. But I couldn't stop, couldn't slow down. I pulled off I-5 into the downtown core, and the city felt wrong, gray, and tired, with tents lining the sidewalks and people shuffling through the streets like ghosts. The shelter address led me into Pioneer Square, where old brick buildings loomed overhead, and the air smelled like rain and desperation. I parked on 3rd Avenue and sat there, staring at the shelter entrance. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might be sick, because in a few minutes I'd walk through that door and I'd either find my brother or I'd find out that grief had finally broken me completely. I turned off the engine, and I made myself get out of the car. The shelter smelled like industrial cleaner and old coffee. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a harsh, unforgiving glow. A woman at the front desk looked up as I approached, middle-aged, tired eyes, but kind. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for someone," I said. My voice sounded hollow. "He called me last night, said he was staying here. Logan Hayes." Her expression softened with recognition. "Oh, yes. He's been here about a week. Quiet man. Seems lost, confused. He's in the common room." She pointed down a hallway. "Through there, second door on the left." I nodded, unable to speak, and walked. The common room was filled with worn couches and folding chairs. A few men sat scattered around, some reading, some just staring at nothing. And then I saw him, sitting alone by the window. Gray hair, thin and unkempt, face weathered, and lined like old leather, shoulders hunched as if he'd spent years trying to make himself smaller, invisible. Clothes that hung loose on a frame that had once been strong. But the eyes. God, the eyes were Logan's. He looked up, and the moment our gazes met, something shifted in his expression. Recognition, fear, hope, all at once. "You came," he whispered. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "Show me your wrist," I said. It came out harsher than I meant. He stood slowly, like his joints ached, and walked toward me. He stopped a few feet away and rolled up his right sleeve with shaking hands. There it was. The half-moon scar, exactly where it should be. Exactly the shape I remembered teasing him about when we were kids. My knees buckled. I caught myself on the back of a chair. "It's you," I breathed. "Oh God, it's really you." Logan's face crumpled. I don't remember being him, being your brother. I just have pieces. Waking up in a hospital years ago, they said someone found me on the street. No wallet, no ID, nothing. I couldn't tell them my name because I didn't know it. His voice cracked. People took advantage of that. Used me for work I can barely remember. I've just been drifting for so long. I stepped forward and grabbed his shoulders. He flinched, but I held on. "We're doing a DNA test," I said. "Today. Right now." "Gerald, He looked down at himself, shame flooding his face. "I'm not. I smell. I look like something that crawled out of—" "I don't care," I said firmly. "You're coming with me. We're getting answers." He stared at me for a long moment, tears welling in those familiar eyes. Then he nodded. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." The DNA lab was in a sterile office building downtown, the kind of place that processed paternity tests and immigration cases without asking questions. They didn't bat an eye when I walked in with Logan disheveled, nervous, smelling like he hadn't had a proper shower in weeks. The technician was professional and quick. 2 cheek swabs, 1 from each of us, labels, paperwork. "Results in 48 hours, she said. "We'll call as soon as they're ready." 48 hours. 2 days to find out if my entire understanding of the last 38 years had been a lie. I got us a hotel room nearby. 2 beds. Nothing fancy, but clean. Logan stood in the doorway like he was afraid to enter, like he didn't deserve to be anywhere with carpet and working heat. "Go ahead," I said gently. "Take a shower. Take as long as you need." He disappeared into the bathroom, and I heard the water start. It ran for almost an hour. When he finally emerged, wrapped in a towel with steam billowing out behind him, I could see more of him. The gray hair was cleaner, lighter. The lines in his face stood out differently. And, underneath all the years of hardship and survival, I could see flashes of the kid I grew up with. We sat across from each other on the beds, an awkward silence stretching between us. "What was I like?" Logan asked quietly. "Before?" I swallowed hard. "You were fearless, always getting into trouble, dragging me along with you. You loved terrible jokes and Mom's cooking and building things with your hands. You were good, Logan, you were so damn good." He looked down at his weathered palms. "I don't feel good. I feel empty, like there's supposed to be something inside me, but it's just gone." "It's still there," I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. "We'll find it, together." He nodded, but didn't look convinced. That night, I lay awake in the dark, listening to Logan cry quietly in the other bed. Soft, broken sounds he was trying to muffle. I wanted to say something, do something, but I didn't know what. So I just listened, my own tears sliding silently into the pillow. By morning, neither of us had slept more than an hour. The waiting had begun, and it was unbearable. The call came the next afternoon at 2:47 p.m. We'd spent the day in the hotel room, barely speaking. Logan sat by the window, staring out at the gray Seattle skyline like he was trying to memorize it. I paced, made coffee neither of us drank, checked my phone every 30 seconds even though I knew it was too soon. When it finally rang, I almost didn't recognize the sound. The screen showed the lab's number. My hand trembled as I answered. "Hello?" Mr. Hayes, this is Jennifer from Pacific DNA Services. Your results are ready. I couldn't breathe. Logan had turned from the window, his face pale, eyes locked on mine. Would you like me to go over them with you now? She asked. Yes, I managed. Please. There was the sound of papers rustling, an eternity compressed into 3 seconds. The test compared your DNA sample with the sample from Logan Hayes, she said, her voice professionally calm. The probability of full biological siblingship is 99.998%. The phone slipped from my hand. I heard her voice, tinny and distant. Mr. Hayes, are you there? I couldn't answer, couldn't move. The room was spinning, tilting, reality reshaping itself around this one impossible fact. Logan stood slowly, his face a question mark, hope and terror fighting for dominance. What did she say? He whispered. I looked at him, this weathered, broken man who'd been lost for nearly 4 decades, and the words came out choked, raw. You're my brother. It's you. It's really you. Logan's legs gave out. He crumpled onto the bed, hands covering his face, and a sound came out of him that was barely human, decades of grief and confusion and relief all at once. I crossed the room in 2 steps and pulled him into my arms. He was so thin, so fragile, nothing like the strong kid who used to wrestle me to the ground. But he was Logan. He was my brother. We held each other and sobbed, 2 men, destroyed by the weight of lost time. You're home now, I whispered into his hair. You hear me? You're home. He clutched at my shirt like a drowning man clutching a life raft, and we stayed like that until the shadows grew long across the hotel room floor. The impossible was true. My brother was alive. But even as relief flooded through me, another feeling followed close behind a grief so profound it nearly broke me all over again. 38 years. 38 years he'd been alone. Lost, exploited. While I'd been living my life, he'd been suffering. And I hadn't known. I hadn't saved him. Dr. Maren Fox's office was in a quiet building near the university district. She specialized in trauma and memory disorders. And when I'd called her that morning, desperate for answers, she'd agreed to see us immediately. Logan sat beside me in the waiting room, fidgeting with the sleeve of the coat I'd bought him the day before. He looked cleaner now, more human, but the fear in his eyes hadn't diminished. Mr. Hayes? Logan? The doctor appeared in the doorway 50s, calm presence, eyes that had seen suffering before. Come on back. Her examination was thorough and gentle. She asked Logan questions he couldn't always answer, noted the scars on his hands and arms, the way he flinched at sudden movements. She looked into his eyes with a penlight, felt along his scalp, documented everything with quiet precision. Finally, she sat back and folded her hands. Logan, you have significant scarring on your scalp, consistent with severe head trauma, she said carefully. Old fractures in your ribs and left arm that healed without proper medical treatment. Signs of long-term malnutrition and exposure. And the memory loss you describe, it's called dissociative amnesia, likely triggered by physical trauma and prolonged psychological stress. What does that mean? I asked, though part of me already knew. She looked at me, and there was something like sorrow in her expression. It means Logan survived the crash, she said. But someone found him, someone who didn't report it. Based on the pattern of injuries in the timeline, my professional opinion is that he was exploited, likely forced into labor in remote locations. Logging camps, mining operations, places where questions aren't asked and people disappear. Logan had gone very still beside me. When he was no longer useful, injured, confused, he was abandoned, Dr. Fox continued. He's been living on the streets, with no identity, no memory of who he was, for decades. The words hit me like physical blows. I thought about the morgue again, the battered face I'd identified as my brother, how grief and shock had made me so certain. I'd buried someone else's son, and our mother had died grieving a lie. I'm sorry, Logan whispered suddenly, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I grabbed his hand. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. But he was crying now, and so was I, both of us drowning in the weight of what had been stolen. 38 years of hell. And I hadn't known he was out there. The drive back to Spokane felt different than the drive out. Logan sat in the passenger seat, quiet, staring out the window like he was seeing the world for the first time. Maybe he was. I'd called Marilyn from Seattle, finally told her everything. She'd gone silent on the other end for a long moment, then said simply, "Bring him home." When we pulled into the driveway, she was waiting on the porch. Logan tensed beside me. "Gerald, I don't know if I can." "You can," I said gently. "She wants to meet you." We got out of the car slowly. Marilyn descended the steps, her hand over her mouth, eyes glistening. She'd heard stories about Logan for 35 years, the brother I'd lost, the shadow that never quite left me. Now he stood in front of her, real and broken and alive. She approached carefully, like he might bolt. When she was close enough, she stopped and looked at him, really looked at him. "Welcome home, Logan," she said softly. That was all it took. Logan's face crumpled, and Marilyn opened her arms. He fell into them like a man who'd been drowning for 38 years and finally found air. She held him while he sobbed against her shoulder, this stranger who was family, and she whispered, "It's okay. You're safe now. You're safe." Inside, we'd prepared the guest room. Clean sheets, warm blankets, a lamp on the nightstand. Logan stood in the doorway, staring at the bed like it was something from another world. "This is too much," he whispered. "It's yours," I said, "for as long as you need it." Over the next few days, I helped him remember how to live, how to work the washing machine, what time we ate meals, where things were kept, simple things that had become foreign to him. He apologized constantly, for the space he took up, for the food he ate, for existing. One morning, Marilyn found him trying to sleep on the floor beside the bed. She sat down next to him, patient and calm. "Logan, you're not a burden. You're family. This is your home now. Do you understand?" He looked at her with those haunted eyes. "I don't know how to be someone's family anymore." "Then we'll learn together," she said. And slowly, painfully slowly, he started to believe her. He started to believe he deserved a bed, a room, a home. Logan started therapy twice a week with Dr. Fox. She worked with him patiently, gently, like someone coaxing a frightened animal out of hiding. The nightmares came almost every night. I'd wake to the sound of him screaming raw, terrified sounds that tore through the house. I'd rush to his room and find him tangled in sweat-soaked sheets, gasping for air, eyes wild with panic. "The cold," he'd gasp. "I can't get warm. They're shouting. There are chains." I'd sit with him until dawn, both of us exhausted, both of us haunted by different versions of the same ghost. But slowly, painfully, slowly, other memories began surfacing. One morning at breakfast, Logan stopped mid-bite, fork suspended in air. "Mom used to hum," he said suddenly, "while she cooked. I can almost hear it." My throat tightened. She did. Always the same song, "You Are My Sunshine." His eyes filled with tears. Yeah, that was it. More came after that. Fragments at first, then fuller pieces. He remembered Max, our old golden retriever who used to sleep at the foot of his bed, the treehouse we built with stolen lumber and bent nails. The radio I broke and blamed on him. He laughed when he remembered that, a sound so unexpected it startled both of us. And he remembered the cinnamon rolls, the way the whole house would smell like Christmas morning, even though they were always burned. I watched these memories return, and felt my own guilt deepen with each one. While he'd been lost, I'd been living, getting married, building a career, believing a lie. "It's not your fault," Logan said one night, as if reading my mind. "You couldn't have known." But that didn't make it easier. Dr. Fox suggested he try something structured, something gentle. A friend of hers ran a community garden downtown and needed volunteers. Logan was terrified at first. What if I do it wrong? What if people ask questions? "Plants don't judge," I said, "and you don't owe anyone your story." He started going 3 mornings a week, working the soil, planting seeds, watching things grow. He came home with dirt under his fingernails and something almost like peace in his eyes. I like it there, he admitted quietly. It's simple. I know what to do. Then keep doing it, I said. And he did. One small step at a time, my brother was coming back. 6 months later, on a warm evening in early autumn, Logan and I sat on the porch watching the sun sink behind the mountains. The air smelled like cut grass and wood smoke, and the world felt quiet in a way that didn't hurt anymore. Logan had filled out some. The hollows in his cheeks weren't as deep. His hands were steadier. He still had nightmares, still had days where he couldn't get out of bed, but there were good days too. Days where he laughed. Days where he seemed almost whole. He'd been staring at the sunset for a long time when he finally spoke. "Do you think Mom knows?" he asked softly. "That I'm alive?" The question hit me hard. I thought about her, how she'd withered after we buried who we thought was Logan. How she'd never been the same. How she died 10 years later still grieving her youngest son. I fought back tears and looked at my brother. "She never stopped loving you," I said, my voice thick. "Not for a single day. And I think wherever she is, she's known all along. I think she's been waiting for this." Logan nodded slowly, tears streaming down his weathered face. "I hope so," he whispered. "I hope she knows I'm okay now." "She knows," I said. And somehow I believed it. We sat in silence as the sun disappeared completely, leaving only the soft glow of twilight. And for the first time in 38 years, I felt something like peace. Logan wasn't the same person he'd been at 20. That version of him was gone, stolen by trauma and time and cruelty. But he was building something new, a life shaped by survival and resilience and the slow, painful work of healing. And I was learning to forgive myself. For the misidentification, for the years I didn't look, for being human and fallible and blind with grief. We were both broken in different ways, but we were together. And family, I'd learned, isn't just about blood or memory or the past you shared. It's about showing up. It's about holding on when everything tells you to let go. It's about believing in second chances even when they seem impossible. I lost my brother at 26, but at 65, I got him back. And that's a miracle I'll never stop being grateful for.